Welcome in. Welcome. Second, I'm sharing this out real quick. Hope you guys will do the same. I got a little bit of reading I want to do for you guys. A very wonderful writer who's been writing something about the events of late, and so that be brought up. Got to share with her real quick, and then once we get it shared with her, then right is rain and ready to go. Am I a flat earther? No, I'm not. I'm not a flat earther. All right, everything is going super slow. So, I appreciate you guys for joining in. I'm trying to see if you guys got any other simple questions. And more share to go, and then we'll. Sorry, just went live. So rude. Yeah, man. What's up with James doing that? Stomping on my feet like that, bro. It's not okay. We got a schedule to maintain. We got schedules. Schedules. It is what it is. But it's fine. So it is what it is. I got this shared out. I hope you guys have done the same. Thank you guys all for joining in right now. Stefan, welcome, good sir. All right. I guess I need to turn this one off for just a little bit, right? We'll have the call in line. The call in line will come back up here in a little bit, but for right now, it needs to remain in the distance as I drop my phone. So it has been a while, Dad. I appreciate you for joining in. And so in light of the situation, in light of the government shutdown, there's been a wonderful, beautiful writer, Elizabeth. She is somebody that is a patriot. So good person. She's very eccentric in the way that she writes, and so she wrote every day. She's writing a diary about the government shutdown, and I thought you guys would get a good chuckle out of this. And so I wanted to share it with you guys. So it's going to be a little bit of an intimate story because you got to get down into the feels. You got to get down into the core and really embody what she's trying to share with us. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this. And it, like I said, it is a diary, so I'll read it as such. Day 1 of the government shutdown. I awake to cook breakfast. Unfortunately, the eggs and meat were not USDA inspected, and now I have bovine tuberculosis and salmonella. There was rat poison in my medication, and I'm slowly dying in agony because people's driver's licenses are expiring, causing them to crash into nearby objects. The roads are slowly crumbling, and the bridges as well as infrastructures are collapsing as cars plummet into the rivers below. It is impossible to get to a hospital, where there are no surgeons anyway, and a year-long wait because my government-subsidized healthcare has lapsed. It's tribal welfare all around, and it's resembling Somalia. We will all literally die in the streets if this is not resolved soon. Load up. Cool. So, day 1, obviously, there's an apocalypse coming. Day 2, roads and infrastructure are now a distant memory. Tumbleweed blows by as I scavenge for food amongst the crumbled asphalt. I swing open the doors and walk into a saloon where the chairs are adorned with the skeletal remains of what one time were thriving humans under a functioning government. All appears hope. Day 3. I try to escape from the pillage and ruin what's left behind from the fallout. I seek refuge along the riverbank. Unfortunately, since there's no EPA, giant corporations have literally built drainage pipes leading from their factories directly into my rivers and reservoirs, which are now glowing neon green. Deformed marine creatures emerge from the pollution, slowly chasing after me. I run off into the desolate unknown, striving to survive, praying this madness will end. Day 4. My date book tells me it's Christmas. I was going to take the day off, but since all federal labor laws have been abolished, my boss is forcing me at gunpoint to work a 24-hour shift and has cut my pay to $1 an hour without overtime pay. Since there are no OSHA regulations, I have suffered a great fall and injured myself severely. Thankfully, my boss is allowing me a 5-minute unpaid rest break to recuperate. Back to work. I really need that $24. Day 5. The day after Christmas, and it's beginning to look a lot like Chernobyl. I step haphazardly around the people dying in the streets, ignoring their pleas for help. Air raid sirens echo in the background as the sky begins to turn to a pinkish hue. As the pack of wild dogs charge off into the distance, I seek shelter within the confines of a dollar store. Please send help, and send some clean water for these ramen noodles. Day 6. I awake, shivering as my campfire has burned out. I finish off the cold can of beans and can of Diet Mr. Pibb that I was able to scrounge. I make my way towards the city, armed with a spear I sculpted out of a tree branch. I come upon a feminist protest. They are blaming the cisgendered white males for the impending doom upon the planet. I am invited to join. However, even during this time of unrest, I am still practicing proper hygiene. Therefore, I must decline. I contemplate harpooning them and harvesting their blubber for warmth. However, several of them started chasing me with their vibrating detachable sex toys. So I run off into the wild yet again, hoping the chaos will soon subside. Last entry, Day 7. I have set up camp in the wooded outskirts of the state formerly known as Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, since there is no BLM, large oil tankers and drilling rigs are descending upon me. I run away in fear until I come upon a dirt road. I carjack a malnourished pack horse and covered wagon from an Amish fellow, GTA style, and proceed to head north, hoping to reach Canada where there is still a functioning government. As there is no military, I hope to reach the border before the ISIS takes over and I'm forced to speak Muslim and wear a burqa. My freedoms are no longer safe. Please pray for me. If this is not the most accurate depiction of what the mainstream media has provided for the people as to what a government shutdown would look like, I don't know what is, right? We've been promised an apocalypse time and time and time again. If the government doesn't regulate the internet, you'll be paying per tweet, you'll be paying per comment on Facebook, you'll be paying for every little thing that you want. Mr. Unlabeled, welcome in. And every time when the media doesn't get their way, what we are left with is desiring more apocalyptic reasoning to vindicate what they have portrayed for us. And alas, we are always waiting to see the true sheer destruction that was promised to us. And sadly, that destruction never will come. And so I read that. I've been reading those day in and day out since the government shut down. And I'm so thankful that, that Elizabeth is out there writing these, because it brings me joy. It brings me a lot of joy to be able to take a situation as destructive and as demolishing and demoralizing as the federal government shutdown, and to be able to take that and turn it into some pure comedy. I mean, who doesn't want to harpoon some feminists for their blubber and to be able to provide them with warmth? And we'll get back to the feminist discussion here in a little bit when we get to RBG. It's only a partial shutdown. Yes, I agree, Dad. But regardless of the 8% to 25%, whichever way you want to look at it, it's been viewed as much worse than what it really actually is, and so that's the satire of it and all. And so it's a good thing. Good thing is subjective, but it is what it is. The government shut down, and to give you guys the update on what's going on with the government still, right? Both the House and the Senate came together yesterday. Really, no paths forward, no real moves forward. So what we're going to see is the government's going to be remaining shut down until the new Congress comes in, and so that means that the Democrat-led House, led by Nancy Pelosi, will be coming in. She's already taken stances saying, look, we're going to come in, we're going to pass some legislation, we're going to get it through to the Senate, and we're going to do this in a quick and decisive way, not a divisive way, in a decisive way, so that we can show that we are going to be more constructive than to quote her, than what the chaotic White House does. And so she's taken that stance, and she's going to come forward with that. I think because of the actions that were done by the current House, what we've seen with them passing that legislation, $5.7 billion being allocated for the wall, I think that's going to give the Senate, the new Senate, when they come in, I think that's going to give them a little bolster in their step, a little confidence about them, and maybe we'll see a government shutdown continue on, right? And then we'll get a follow up with more of the good Elizabeth discussions. Or the good diary writings, and be able to continue on down that trail. So it'd be beautiful to see that happen. But so we'll see exactly how this all plays out. I think that we're seeing a lot of people really flipping sides on this entire discussion. I think I want to go through brief history because I've been seeing a lot of really disgusting rhetoric from both sides. And I apologize, we're going to be starting off on the MAGA side of this. And so we saw some people that are very, very MAGA, some very pro-Trump, borderline sycophant people that have been very pro-Trump, and that's not a problem. But they've been saying, we're going to get the wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Well, they just flipped. They just flipped on this, and now they're saying, look, it was never that Mexico was going to pay for it. It was that Mexico was going to reimburse us for it. And if Mexico doesn't even reimburse us for it, right, it's so important that even the taxpayers need to pay for it. So we're seeing this rescinding line from people on the right about the wall. If you're just clear and upfront about it, and you say, look, we want the wall, we're willing to pay for the wall, we want the wall, let's go with the wall. Do you, boo-boo? I'm okay with that. You can advocate for it all you want, right? There's a GoFundMe out there, and the GoFundMe is beautiful. But don't keep moving the goalpost and saying, oh, now liberals are stupid because they thought that Mexico was going to pay for the wall because the grand leader, right, President Trump, was saying Mexico's going to pay for the wall. This was one of his campaign promises. So it's not, when you want to ignore the facts, when you want to ignore the quotes, and you want to ignore that stuff, it really hurts your credibility. And so this is something that, if you're on the side of the wall, be on the side of the wall, but at least try to keep some clear-headedness about you. Don't just jump in there and just go off on the partisan rants and ravings on it and go after it. As for the Democratic side, as for the liberal side, the progressive side, it is interesting how many quotations are coming out, how many videos are coming out of Schumer, of Nancy Pelosi, of President Obama, and everyone else that are saying, look, we need to have borders, we need to straighten up on our immigration policy, and now they're just saying, no. President Trump wants to do this, therefore we're against it. So we're seeing both sides really having a strong level of cognitive dissonance, and it's just not good for politics. But it brings you to a bigger issue. What this bigger issue really fundamentally is that both sides want to make change. Both sides want to make this better. They want to make the borders more secure. They want to protect the sovereignty of this nation, but they don't want the other side to get credit for it. So where is the issue in that? The issue in that is that if you can't accept, right, if you are willing to work, even if you're in the minority party or in the majority party, and you're willing to work with the other side and work for the American people, then you're winning, right? You're winning because you are on the side of making the country better. If you're just sitting there obstructing, whether you're the majority or the minority, if you are just sitting there obstructing, you're actually working against the people. Now, if it's a bad policy, if it's a bad idea, right, you don't support it when you're the majority and then go against it when you're the minority. You remain principled on it, and we're not seeing that from very many people. Or if it's a good idea and you're supporting it when you're the majority, you still support it when you're the minority. I'm looking at this and I just see this is why people don't want to be involved with politics. This is why people don't want to go to DC, because you can't be principled and be in DC and be looked at in a good way. Because when you have people that are being principled, right? When you have people that stand for one thing, regardless of who's in power, who's in control, whatever party it may be, right? They are vilified for not bowing and bending right along with the rest of the party. We have to really get away from this. This idea is not beneficial for the people. And so, you know, with this government shutdown, a lot of people are trying to say, look, it's Trump's fault. Oh, look, it's the Democrats' fault. And my question is why does it matter whose fault it is? Whose fault is it? Who cares whose fault it is? Here's the issue right now, is that we have people that work for the federal government that are not being paid right now. We have people that work for the federal government that are not being employed right now. And so if you want them to be employed, right, that's a huge issue. We have the national parks. We have a lot of parks that are coming out that people are no longer able to access. Why can't they access them? Because now we have government shutting it down and preventing people from coming in because they can't handle their own stuff, because they can't handle dissent. They can't handle these discussions. So when they shut it down, they're affecting other people. So either they can do their job or they can. And right now, I think it's clear that both sides suck. Whether you want to say it's for a good reason that they suck or if it's for a bad reason that they suck, I think that we can all agree that they're sucking at doing their job right now. So there clearly needs to be a lot of changes going on. Not a lot of critical thinking. I agree. So if we want to end the government shutdown, right? You can't say we're going to end this government shutdown only if XYZ happens, right? If you're doing that, then I don't know how you say this is a great thing. I've seen some people say, look, you know, I'm in favor of Trump closing down the government because I want the wall. Okay, that's your stance. You're willing to sacrifice the livelihoods of others. You're willing to sacrifice the livelihoods of others in order to make this change, right? This was something that, you know, talk about the tariffs, right? You may want to see the tariffs go away. You may want to see the import taxes, the export taxes of Canada or China or Mexico or whatever country it is go down. And so you're in favor when Trump raises those tariffs. Now, what happens is that you're actually hurting American farmers. You're hurting the American steelworkers. You're hurting the markets, the people that work within the markets within those fields. And then now you're requiring either A, for the government just to turn a blind eye to them and continue to hurt them, or B, you're requiring more subsidies. So no matter which way you're going with this, you're hurting more people in order to advance your agenda. And I think that certainly we can work a system out there in order to hurt no people or as few people as possible while trying to make a better change. And I don't think that we're looking at a Congress as a whole or the government as a whole that is actually working for the people. They're working for their own ideologies. They're working for their own party's views, and they're not working for the people anymore. And this should be a fundamental issue for everyone. This should be a huge problem for everyone. Welcome in, James. How's it going, man? So it's about understanding, hey, we need to stop just advocating for this stuff. If we want to just keep hurting our own people, right, you're going to hurt yourself in the long run, right? There's a short game wins and there's long game wins. If you want to be a party that's going to be beneficial, if you want your party to be successful, you have to be looking at the long game and winning on the short game as well. If you're losing on the short game, you're going to lose out on the next elections, and then you're not going to be able to maintain that power, maintain that momentum in the future. 2020 may be a difficult situation for you. If you're just worried about the short game, right, you're going to be worried about the long game. You're going to be exhausting all of the resources. You're going to be exhausting all of the allocation of spending, and you're going to be hurting yourself in the long run because you're just going to drive up debt like what we've been seeing for the last, 30 years, 40 years. So it's a huge issue. What do you think about interference, government, and economy? So I'm a laissez-faire. I'm a Austrian economics kind of guy. So I believe in as little or to no involvement from the government on the transactions between two consenting individuals. So yes, I realize I just went through a big old rant on that one. So anyways, but the idea here is, right, is that you want to have the short-term wins and the long-term wins, and the only way to do that is by balancing them out and to try to hurt people as least as possible. William, first-time caller, what's up? How's it going, man? I will open up the phone lines here in a little bit, of course, guys, just not quite yet. So actually, you know what? Let's open up that phone line. So if you guys want to call in, you guys want to talk about this stuff, feel free to call in. The phone number is 802-671-5328. That is 802-671-5328. Feel free to call in and talk about it. So hookers and blow. Yeah, I mean, you know, so if, for those of you guys that know me, I am a libertarian. I'm quite against the state saying, hey, so for the hookers one, let's talk about the hookers. So two consenting individuals have sex, not a problem under the state's eyes. Two consenting people have sex and then money is transferred. Huge issue. Big issue. We gotta shut this down immediately. There's huge problems there. It's completely immoral. Oh, I'm sorry, government, there was a camera involved. Oh no, my apologies. You guys continue on. Carry on. You go ahead and you just make her the receptacle of human fluids, right? Like, is there any consistency within that? So, you know, when it comes to the hookers thing, right? Yes, there are problems within the hooker thing, right? Sex trafficking is obviously wrong. If you're working against somebody's consent, that's obviously immoral and disgusting, and that needs to be handled and needs to be addressed. When it comes to things like blow, when it comes to marijuana, I was talking about this actually over the holidays, right? It's not a good holiday unless you're talking about politics. And at the core of what it is about drugs that people don't like is they don't like the result of what some people do when they have drugs. And so it's not necessarily that they have an issue with the drugs themselves. They have an issue with what happens while people are on the drugs, right? So people obviously have issues with DUIs. I can understand that, right? Driving, you're greatly increasing the opportunity for you to commit harm or infringe upon other people's lives, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Obviously there's an issue there. But if somebody's sitting on their couch and smoking a bowl and eating some Cheetos, can you point to me who's being negatively affected, who's being infringed upon by doing that, right? So the hookers and blow thing, I think both of those are certainly it's not in the government's best interest to be involved with those. It's not the government's interest to tell you how to be moral or how to advance the goodness of your heart or to be great. Right. And so part of that, if the government can't force you to be great and force you to make good decisions, they shouldn't be there to support you when you make the bad decision. I appreciate that. I appreciate Stefan for giving that shout out. So yeah, I mean, on those two premises, it's not, I understand the idea of wanting to legislate morality. I understand the desire to want to build people up, and we want to give them that right path, and we want to help them out. But at the end of the day, if we're just going to make criminals, if we're just going to throw people into the legal system, prison system, and we're going to keep them there for years on end, and we're going to destroy their lives, where when they come out, they're going to be more reliant upon the system and be reintroduced into the prison system again, right? We're really just hurting people for making bad decisions, not for infringing upon others, being violent, not for hurting people, not for stealing their stuff, but just for merely making bad decisions. And I think that we really need to sit down and have a good educated discussion about that, right? So so certainly, right, there needs to be we need to relitigate on those discussions, on those laws, and really come to on those. So yeah, that was the first big topic, right? We went from all the way from federal government shutdown, ran through the quick diaries. If you guys missed that, the diaries were fantastic. It's from my friend from New Jersey. She's a good patriot, and she's got a diary for every day that the government has been shut down thus far. It is one of those little golden nuggets, right? Whether you agree or disagree with the government shutdown, this is one of those things. Wake up, and now that I know about it, and I've been following it since day 3, I think it was, I wake up and I'm like, when is she going to post the next day? When is she going to give me that next diary? So if you guys missed that, make sure you guys go back and follow check up on it again. It's there. It's beautiful. It's it's a good time. So I want to move on from the government shutdown, and I want to talk a little bit about the Notorious RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So she's been making the news lately, right? So she's been the Supreme Court justice that a lot of people got their watchful eye on, because not only is she getting a little bit old, not only has she been having a lot of health issues, right? She cracked 3 ribs last month, but she also underwent surgery, and she came out the day after Christmas to remove some cancerous nodes from her left lung. So she's coming up, and people are obviously worried about how much longer she has, if she should retire and survive out if it's beneficial for her to stay on the Supreme Court, or if she should retire, right? Or how long until the end of her days, right? I'm not one to wish ill upon others, but understanding where they are, that is certainly a discussion that needs to be held. But I sat down and I was looking at some documentaries today, because, what better way to spend your day than watching some documentaries? And so she had a documentary done on her, on the Notorious RBG. If you guys want to check it out right now, it's on Hulu. It's the first one, right? Tell me Hulu doesn't have a bias, but it's the first one. If you go to documentaries, it is the very first one, top left, right there, smack dab. Make sure that you see it. But it goes through her history, and I wanted to go through it a little bit, just in case if you have seen it or you know people that have seen it, because it is factual. It is very heavily factual, but the parts that they omit, right, are for clear reason. And this is the important things. This is the big parts of what gets omitted and why. Thank you so much for the super hearts. And so when you look at the Ruth Bader Ginsburg situation, let's start off at the beginning. So growing up, she had some struggles going through. She went to Harvard. She was I believe the number was, she was 9 girls of over 500 in her class, and she had to justify to some of her professors as to why her, a female, should be taking the seat of what could have been taken by a man. So obviously there was some gender discrimination during those times. This was during the early 60s. So yes, we had discrimination to a heavy extent back then. So she makes it through. She meets her husband, and she moves on with life. She starts becoming a judge, or becoming a lawyer. And once she's become a lawyer, she goes and she actually advocates, or she actually makes 6 cases that they go quite in depth with. They go in depth with 3 of them, I should say. They go in depth with 3 cases, and she has very strong arguments as to why there's a lot of gender discrimination in this country, and it was so prevalent at that time. And she makes very strong cases that the defense just is incapable of defending against, and so she wins the first 5 out of 6 cases that she sees at the court. And then they stop with providing you all the robust facts and the history and the discussions of everything else. And then they go on and they explain that she goes from being, when she comes in 93 under Clinton, why she comes from being a kind of a left centrist judge to being kind of the left wing judge, to being the dissenter, to being the obstructionist, if you will. And they go in and they bring up the court case of Hobby Lobby. Now, if you guys don't remember what the Hobby Lobby case was that Hobby Lobby was basically saying, because of the owner and his religious preferences, he should not be forced to provide health care, or he should not be forced to provide contraceptives for the women. Right? He shouldn't be forced to provide contraceptives for anyone. And so the argument came up to the Supreme Court. This was in 2014. Affordable Care Act was enacted in 2010. And so the court case came up and said, basically, well, Affordable Care Act says that you are mandated to provide this, therefore you can't have the religious exemption. And so this came up to the Supreme Court. She dissented from the majority. The majority said, look, the religious preference is supreme, right? You're not to be forced to provide this. Had she won, and her premise was that women's health care, and contraceptives are women's rights, and therefore must be provided by others. So she's arguing for a positive right within the workforce. But she's saying her premise on here, and it's important that you understand, because I'm gonna break this down afterwards. It's important that you understand where that line is. She's advocating for more rights than what are provided to or afforded to men, because men don't have these same forms of contraceptive, and so it'd be kind of weird if Hobby Lobby's like, "Yo, bro, you want some condoms? I got you," and throws condoms at a dude and was like, "Here you go," right? Because vasectomies might be another situation for the form of contraceptive, but they're not out there giving these. They're not out there providing these. And so the argument was that Hobby Lobby needs to provide for women despite the fact that they're not providing for men. So then it became providing for more rights for women than what were being given to men. And so I think that's where we saw this big shift for Ginsburg herself in the way that it's working. And so the reason why this is important, and this is really the core of what feminism does as a movement as a whole. Initial wave, the first wave and the second wave of feminism were very vital and very important for bringing equality, the equality of opportunity to women than it is for men, right? Ginsburg has been a judge that, and when she was a lawyer, was somebody advocating for equal opportunity. Beautiful. Love it. Continue on. That's what I support. I'm a humanitarian. I believe in the equality of all, regardless of your race, creed, gender, or whatever it is. I believe in the freedom of people and for the. But once you had achieved equality, if you don't abandon the movement, what the movement then becomes is to raise up and to provide more for this one in order to, whether it's justified in the way of, say, reparations, where you're saying, look at the wrongdoings of the past and we have to make up for it in the future, or if it's just because you are so that the feminist, I say feminist in a broad sense. The feminist movement, the feminist virtues have become so intrinsic to your character that you are unable to abandon this, and you keep advocating for this. And this is where we are now with Miss Ginsburg, and that is that she no longer advocates for the equality, but she advocates for the push up, the pedestal, if you will, regardless of how big or how small, but she's still there advocating for it. And so it is what is being omitted from that documentary, and it is I think it's vital to understand that. So other than that, I thought it was a fantastic documentary. I would recommend it to anyone if you guys want to go check that out. It was on Hulu, like I said, number one, to show their little bit of a bias, but it was good nonetheless. It's good to open your eyes and to challenge yourself and look at things that you may disagree with on at the surface, but it will make you a better person. Is Ginsburg dead? No, she is not at the moment. This is all where we see war and the idea of man, woman, house. Yes. She advocates for pedophilia. I've not seen where she's advocating for pedophilia. That is news to me. I will accept it as far as I've accepted it in the past, so I will verify it later. I don't know if I believe that so much. But while we're talking about equality, while we're talking about freedoms, I want to move from that to another judicial nominee, and this is a story that's coming out just this week. Both Democratic senators, Kamala Harris and Mazie Hirono, right, from Hawaii and California and Hawaii respectively, are now challenging Trump's judicial nominee, Brian Busher. So the entire basis behind this is that they're saying that because he is a Catholic and because he's involved with a Catholic church that has a pro-life stance, that is not in favor of abortion, that is also not in favor of same-sex marriage, that he's too extreme to be accepted. Now, the basis is because of his religious influence, because of his religion, that he is no longer capable or no longer able to be an unbiased judge. Now, this is never in the history of ever, prior to, what was it? I mean, during Ginsburg's nomination process, this was one of the topics that came up. She came up and she talked about abortion, and Orrin Hatch was like, look, I don't agree with you on this at all, but I don't have to agree with you to understand that you are willing to utilize the laws in the way that they're set, and to forego your bias, to forego your principles, to accept that the laws are the laws and that you will administer them in the proper fashion. And now what we've seen with the Kavanaugh, and now with judicial nominee Busher, that they would rather play stupid games. And I say stupid games because that's exactly what it is. It is absolutely insipid, destructive, and repugnant for somebody to say, because of your religious preference, that you are no longer capable or able to uphold an office. Now, I want to also point out the First Amendment. The First Amendment says that you have the freedom of religion. That doesn't mean that if you become a government official that you now have to ignore your religious views or your religious principles. This just means that you are free to subscribe to whatever religion you choose, and that should not be held against you in the way that Hirono and Harris are attempting to do. Now, we've seen this from Democrats in the past, right? They're not a big fan of Catholics, because let's be honest, right? Catholics are mostly pro-life, right? They believe in the average Catholic family definitely has more people in that family than what you would see from a secular family or from a Christian, and otherwise a Protestant family, right? And so they're much more pro-life, and so we're seeing this absolutely disgusting rhetoric, and I want to know, when is it going to be enough that Democrats say you shouldn't be able to do this, right? Because we can rant, rave, and yell at the Democrats for the disgusting things that they're doing, the absolutely unethical things that they're doing, but they don't listen. Each side has become so divided that you're yelling miles across because the divide is so large that they never hear it. They don't care. You're just a partisan. You just believe in your party, and you just want to find ways to get off on attacking the other side. So when is it going to be enough for Democrats to stand up and say, this is disgusting? You stop doing this. It's absolutely reprehensible to go after somebody because of their religious views. Either he has a good record and he has administered the law in the proper ways, and to ensure that everything that he is doing is well within his constraints, and that he will be able to administer the Constitution in the way that it is written, in the way that it has been, the precedents have been set by the Supreme Court. If you have an argument against that, if you have an argument against his ability of the past, of his record, and the ways that he's administered that, you raise those. But if you're going to go after his character, if you're going to go after his principles, his values, right? You're creating a whole new precedent, and it is not good for this country in any way, shape, or form. This is really speaking to, right? This is really speaking to that idea that a lot of people have been seeing, and that is that the Democrats are just anti-religious. Unless of course you're Islamic, then it's all about the tolerance. It's all about accepting you and bringing you in. But if you're Catholic, right? Oh, no. No, because there's views that I disagree with within the Catholic faith, so therefore they're not acceptable, or the Christian faith, or whatever faith it is. But it's I hope you guys can see this, and you guys can really understand that this is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. If you don't want an abortion, then don't have one. If I don't want an abortion, I shouldn't have to pay for your abortion. Right? That's the whole basis behind this. If you don't want to pay for something, if you don't want something, if something is against your values, you shouldn't be forced to pay for it. And the GoFundMes that are going on right now really speak loudly to the idea that nobody should be forced to pay anything that they don't want to. Everything that the government provides that is not in accordance with the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, should be then funded by voluntary donations from the people. Right? And Texas Blue is going off the rails again with nonsense. All right, so it's looking at that whole situation. I am absolutely disgusted that people accept this, right? We've seen this in the past. We've seen even Bernie Sanders going after people for their religion. And it's just, when will the left wake up that they should not go after people for the people, but go after them for the job that they're doing, right? Because here's really a good analogy for what's going on, because when you go to a doctor, do you want a good character doctor who's a bad doctor, who won't practice on you very well, who won't provide you with the services that you need, or do you want a good doctor that has a bad character? At that right there, if you have those two choices, right, I think each and every one of us would say, I would rather have the bad character doctor that's going to do good for me. Because I'm going to you to be the doctor. I'm not going to you to be my friend, to be my relative, to be a part of my life in any appreciable way. I just want you to fix my knee so I can walk around again, so I can walk the hell out of your office and stay the hell away from you, right? Can't be expecting that everyone's going to be a good person, right? If it doesn't relate to the facts of the past, or to the facts of the future or in the present, right? If things have changed, we need to stop going after this search and destroy like what they did with Judge Kavanaugh off of baseless claims without evidence and trying to destroy the lives of people. So I'm still really worked up about this, right? I'm still really worked up about the Kavanaugh case because I'm dumbfounded with how insipid people have. But it is what it is. So I can't believe people. It really does irk me of how quickly people are able to say, look, well, a Republican put this person up, so therefore I'm opposing it. I got to find any way to oppose them, even if it means that I have to create a new precedent or a new standard or a new goalpost and move that around as much as possible so that I can get my will, get my way. It needs to stop. If you care about this country, in any appreciable way, you should be on my side on this and denouncing this. Whether it is in favor of your side or against your side, you should be denouncing this. Because what we are moving towards is a banana republic. We've already got an unconstitutional government that is doing as they see fit, bending the rules, bending the will of, or the tenor of the Constitution to do as they want. And then now we are accepting and tolerating just an absolute circus. Audio is cutting in and out. I apologize for that. Let me see if I can make a quick adjustment on the fly. All right. Let Kavanaugh jump your bones. We won't care. That's not it at all, right? Because it was an evidence-based claim. The FBI investigation went through it again, found nothing. So once again, right? I was even the guy that was like, hey, let's wait and see what the FBI comes out with. Despite what people wanted. I said, let's wait, found out nothing. So we can point at the other side and we can say, yeah, that side's worse than our side. And it doesn't matter, because like what I was saying on my impromptu discussion yesterday was that take ownership. Take ownership. The other side's discussing. Okay. You can't control them. You have no control over them. What do you have control over? You have control over yourself. You have control over your voice. So you be better. You be the shining example of how to be a better person. And you look at things more objectively. You go and read the documents instead of trusting what the mainstream media is putting out to you. You go and read what the actual Supreme Court decisions are, or what the Texas judge and the way that he ruled when Affordable Care Act, when he deemed it to be unconstitutional. You actually go and read those things and you go, oh, wow, look at how many people are lying about this. And whether it's ignorance or malice, it doesn't matter. It eventually gets to a point where it doesn't matter. So when you read those things and you read the Texas judge's opinion on Affordable Care Act being unconstitutional, both with and without the individual mandate, and now that the individual mandate has been removed and is deemed inseverable, which means that the bill cannot stand, the rest of the Affordable Care Act cannot stand without the individual mandate, then that also doubly means that the Affordable Care Act is unconstitutional. Therefore, you have to remove it. Nobody is talking about that in the mainstream. Nobody is talking about that in any appreciable way. So many people are missing out on that big point of what was actually being said on it. And those are on pages 34, 35, 36, and 37 of the document itself. So what I'm saying, though, is, right, you have to be better yourself. All of us have a bit of ownership that we need to go out and we need to verify. We can't trust people. You can't trust anyone. You can't trust, regardless of how many times you're given the truth from every single person that you, or from one singular person, right? If you're a follower of James and James hits you every single day, 100% true every single time, and you are just like, James is nailing it, James is 100% true, he's being objective, the only way that you can verify that is by verifying what he says. That doesn't attack him at all, that doesn't demean him at all, but you're saying, he has given me good stuff in the past, so that means that I'm willing to listen to him, and then I go and I verify it still. I still continue to verify everything that he says so that I can make sure that I'm going to get the same takeaways that he does. Because you might get a different takeaway. We're all individuals. We're all free-thinking people, and so we will get those different takeaways from these things. And that is what's beautiful about this country. But when you accept other people's narratives and you just regurgitate them constantly, how are you going to defend them if you don't know it yourself? So take a little bit of time, slow down on things, and look at things without the party. Look at things without, right? So I hate Kamala Harris. I don't like Kamala Harris. I think she is an intersectional piece of garbage. She was a trash AG, and she's now a trash senator. That's not because she's a Democrat. It's because of her stances. It's because of her policies. It's because of what she's done. It's not because of her party. And that's why I really want people to start looking past. Stop looking at just the symbol next to their name. Stop looking at the D. Stop looking at the R and saying, this person's a good person or this person's a... Start looking at them and seeing how they're actually going to work. F Trump resist. That's fine. You can do whatever you want to do. That's cute. But it's important, right? I trusted Pelosi to beat Trump's wimpy behind. That's cute. That's cute. But it's so we have to. Everyone needs to slow down. They really need to verify everything, and then they also need to look at this as a principle. Do you think that it's okay that somebody is being accepted or being having opposition because of their religious views? If you think yes only for this religion or this religion, but not for this religion, you are unprincipled, right? If you think it is okay for a man to do something but not for a woman, or for a woman to do something and not a man, you are unprincipled. Get down and grab onto your values and actually work these out. It takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of effort. But once you get down to those principles, you're going to be a better person in the long run. And I'm really speaking out to each and every one of you, regardless of where you come from, where you've been, and what party you're in. But if you can grab onto your principles, you're going to be a better person, because you're going to be able to say, even when your own side is doing wrong, you're going to be able to say it. And when you can see it and you can say it, you gain credibility in everybody's eyes. So that's right. I've been a small guy. I've been a little guy. I've been growing. I'm thankful for everyone else that's been helping me out in any way that they have been, with the shares, for the retweets, for the likes, for the subscription, or for subscribing on YouTube. Thank you for that, guys. But I'm gaining this because I'm principled, because I'm willing to say this person's right, this person's wrong, and I'm able to slap a wrist and pat backs. And I think that if we all work towards that, we're not only going to make ourselves better, but we're going to make politics as a whole better. And that right there is the beauty of what the First Amendment was supposed to be about. Not about just seeing how triggered you can make the liberals or how triggered you can make the conservatives, but about actually having the free expression of ideas. That's what's so important. That's what's so vital. And we really need to move towards that. And Fritzer nails it right here. The government is not our friend. Power works against your individual lives. Absolutely, 100%. Right. This was the power scheme, the power pole that I've talked about many a times on here. Right. If you want power to the individual, if you want to have more power, more control over your life, guess what? It's on a spectrum. So you need to go and grab that cursor that's shifting towards the government. You need to grab onto that, get as many of your buddies as possible, teach them, have them get them learned up good, get them learned up goodest even, and grab onto that cursor and just start shifting it back to the people. We need to move back towards individual liberty. This was the only nation in this country that was founded upon individual liberty, and we are not only forfeiting this to the government, but we're pushing it to them. We're advocating, take more control over us because we don't want it. Because I can't trust this person, I can't trust that person. And what you're saying when you do this is, I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself. Because if you trusted yourself, you would say, I can protect myself. I can defend myself. I can defend my life, my liberty, my pursuit of happiness, and I can make this world a better place. But when you say, I don't like it when other people do things, I can't help make the change, I can't be a positive influence for them, so you take the control, you take the blame, right? There's a special kind of person for you. That's a special kind of person for sure. I got a big quote for you guys, because I'm a big lover of the quotes, if you will. And this one comes from Samuel Adams. And this kind of goes in line with what we've been talking about, the power and with the finances of early in this discussion. But the quote is, if ye love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude better than the animating contest of freedom, go home from us in peace. We ask not your counsels or your arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains set lightly upon you, and may your posterity forget that ye were our countrymen. The whole entire gist of that was that if you are advocating against us, if you want to lick the hand of the monarchy, if you want to lick the hand of a tyrannical government, if you want to kiss the boot, if you want to lick the boot, whatever reference you want to use, then you are working against us. And forget that you were ever one of us. Don't call yourself a patriot. Don't call yourself an American. Don't say that you're in favor of the American values while you advocate for a bigger government. Because it's the small government, is the limited government, is the government that wasn't infringing upon us that made this country so great. It is those values of individual liberty that brought us to be the nation that we are. And when you advocate away from that, when you say, yeah, we can have universal health care. Yeah, we need to have free college. Yeah, we need to do this. We need to do that. You're advocating against the notion, the virtues, the values, the principles, the Constitution itself. Because you think it would be better. But you're missing the entire premise, and that is that the country would be better as individuals. We can be individuals and come together collectively and volunteer for each other and to donate to each other and to help lift each other up. But that doesn't require the force of government. That doesn't require the threat of violence for not giving up more of my paycheck. Right? When our founding came about, the Boston Tea Party was over a 3% tax. But yet now we're at an effective tax rate of 30 to 40%. We have fallen so deep into our trance, into our sleep, that it's time that Americans start waking up to the idea that the bigger the government, it's not the better the life. The more that we become slaves, the more that we become reliant upon them, the less that we can rely on ourselves. When the government steps up and says that you can't be compassionate because we want the monopoly on compassion. You can't be violent because we want the violent monopoly. We want to control everything. When we want to control your lives and we want to say that you have no privacy to your own private property. Remember, we were once the private citizens and they were the public servants. I don't think that we have that any longer. With the amount of transparency that has been lost from DC, with the Freedom of Information Acts that are being just completely obfuscated and completely being ignored, they're no longer the public servants. They're just people that get elected and that they are the private servants, and we are becoming the public. The public is no longer the private citizens. And we're losing these rights routinely, year in and year out. And I want to know, when are you going to stand up? When are you going to say this government is enough? This government is too much. Real quick, I have another fallacy coming up. I'm a patriot who went to law school rather than trying to teach the law out of ignorance. So this is also the same guy that said that Affordable Care Act was constitutional, despite the fact that, doesn't practice law anymore. But I'm not gonna degrade myself and to really go down into your life there, Philly. And I'm not gonna certainly degrade your self-imposed ego and importance, because I know it. I know that you've filled that so much. But you couldn't even explain to me what Article 6, Clause 2 meant. Couldn't explain what the Second Amendment meant. Couldn't explain to me what the Fourth Amendment meant, Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, the Seventh Amendment. I think I even asked you about the Eighth Amendment, and you were kind of shaky on that one. Or the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment's a big one, right? But you can preach about how you went to law school. You can preach about being indoctrinated, but that doesn't mean that you know anything. Being indoctrinated is just another thing. Public schools. Have you guys noticed that as government's got more involved with public education, with the starting of the Department of Education back in the 70s, that now civics is gone, that now people are more and more ignorant of the ways that the structure of the government works, that we have somebody that just came out of school, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who doesn't even understand that there's 3 branches of government, but she thinks it's 3 chambers of Congress. 3 chambers of government, and those 3 chambers are the executive branch, the House and the Senate, right? She doesn't even know that there's a Supreme Court branch. That is the judiciary branch. She doesn't even understand this. So as we look, we're becoming more and more indoctrinated. So it's becoming more and more true that the more school that somebody has under their belt oftentimes means that the less educated they've become. Because if you can read the founding documents, if you can become a textualist, that's what I subscribe to being. If you become a textualist, you'll read the founding documents, you'll read the intent, you'll read the understanding of what these our founding fathers meant. And you can take those and you can embody them, and you'll be much more wise. Our founding documents, Declaration of Independence, Constitution, and the Bill of Rights when it was amended, these were all documents of wisdom leagues beyond what is being taught in our schools to this day. Leagues. It is truly enlightening to go out there and read these documents and to learn about the discussions that they had and why these discussions were made the way that they are, and why the words were picked so precisely within these documents to ensure that the message that was being sent, that the message was not just sent for the day of when they were put, but the days of when that amendment or that portion of the document was still enacted. And we've gone so far away from that, and it's because of the indoctrination of federal government not wanting us to be free men, but to be the sheeple. So I would worry about that. You're absolutely right, James. The Constitution was written so a person could understand it by intention. Yes, it was written so that each and every man, the common man that had a basic education, that could read and write, could read the document and understand what the principle was, understand what the tenor or the intent of it was. And then we started adding amendments to it, and we started making them so riddled with lawyer speak, so that you had to be indoctrinated in order to understand it, so that you can understand the ways that they were going to be manipulated, where you can change the intent of what shall not be infringed, and you can say that means that we can infringe upon it. That means that we can affect these. That means that we have the authority to come in and to regulate, to control, right? It takes indoctrination to not understand what the term shall not be infringed means. It really does. And so you're absolutely right. It was written in a way so that everyone would be able to understand it, so that you could understand your rights that were protected by the government, not afforded to you by the government, but protected by you, or protected by the government for you, the individual. And so understanding all of that, it really does take somebody to be a full-on sheeple to think otherwise. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. I appreciate you all for joining in tonight. It's Friday night, which means the next time I'll see you guys is Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. I hope you guys enjoyed it tonight. It's Friday night, so do not drink and drive or ride with those who do. You have family and friends who care about you and love you deeply, and they want you to come on back down over this way on Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. So I am Mr. Murica, the Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. I'll see you guys soon.